I've lost 50 pounds as a person with chronic illness. And here's the reality of the impact it's had on my body. Now let's get one thing straight. This video might not be what you're expecting, but please watch this from start to finish and then comment down below and let me know your thoughts. This might not be exactly what you thought, but bear with me. There's a reason why I filmed this video, and there's a reason why I did it the way I did it. This video is not some cheery high five, and I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here to give you. I wish it was. I really, really do wish that's what I was here to give you. But the reality is, as a person with chronic illness, it's just not what it is. Losing 50 pounds has taught me a lot. I've been on this journey for almost a year now. If you've missed my first video on this, which would have been my video on Ozempic, you can watch it after this. I did not lose this quote unquote naturally. Most people, as soon as I brought up the word Ozempic, probably clicked off of this, but here's the reality. I've been on Ozempic since September, but in May of last year, I spoke to my doctor about Ozempic. And that's where I'll kind of leave that there. You'll get the rest of the details in that video. But I've been on Ozempic since September. Off and on, this journey's been a really long one. I've lost those 50 pounds, and I give most of that credit to Ozempic, but I've also made some pretty drastic changes in my life as well. And most of those changes I'll give to 2 or 3 main things. One, upping my protein significantly. A lot of that I'll credit to my husband and really him wanting to make some changes as well, because the reality is I don't cook anything. I can't cook, and it's not that I can't actually cook, is that unfortunately due to my chronic illnesses, I'm not able to stand and actually make a meal for myself. And so everything has to be pre-prepped and done by my husband. Thank you, he's the best. And or we have to have pre-made meals and things like that. And a lot of the times I used to grab Michelinas and random pre-made meals, and we have slowly incorporated having him make prepped meals and or grabbing for more lean, high protein, pre-prepped meals from the frozen aisle at, superstores and Walmarts and things like that. And I think those very, very small changes do make a really, really large impact. Lowering those calorie intakes, higher protein, I think we underestimate those small changes. Unfortunately, I can't say I've added any exercise. I, quite frankly, didn't do very much to begin with because I can't. However, I think a lot of people underestimate the 80-20 rule. 80% of losing weight is really diet, and 20% of it is exercise. So quite frankly, chronic illness people need to remember that you don't do any exercise as much as we should, and if we can, that's great, but it's all about the food. What we put in our mouths, how we feed our bodies, it's the hardest part of the battle. And so really focusing on that is really how you're going to get to those goals. And the other thing is upping my water intake. And by that, I mean not actually water, but electrolytes. I add salt to pretty much all the water I consume. Have been doing this for quite some time, but I've been consuming a lot more water with salt and electrolytes. We touched on this a few times on the channel, but I've been really tracking it and doing more of that, which I think has been helping. I am not perfect. The last 6 months have not been perfect. I think I've gotten to the point where I've pretty much plateaued on my Ozempic, so we're gonna have to kind of hit it into high gear and look at other options now. This 50 pounds doesn't feel very different. Yeah, my clothes fits better, or quite frankly, I'm at the point where I should probably buy some new clothes. A lot of people would probably expect after losing 50 pounds and being nothing but up on the scale for the past 5 years, I should be really happy with this, and I should be ecstatic, quite frankly. From a glass half full perspective, yeah, of course I love seeing the scale go down. But here's the other thing. I don't feel any better. And for me, a real victory at this point in my life, after being chronically ill for 7 years, losing 50 pounds you'd think that I would feel better. And here's the actual reality, gang. When you're chronically ill, and people out there don't realize, chronic illnesses are chronic for a reason. It doesn't really matter what you do, they don't go away. You will be managing them for the rest of your life. Yeah, there are medicines that will help, and yes, exercise and movement and good nutrition and all those things will help, but you are dealing with them forever. This video, I really wanted to kind of put the point out there that like, I've lost 50 pounds and like, I haven't noticed any improvement in my health. And I thought by now I would notice something. And I was really hoping that we'd notice something. And I acknowledge that the 50 pounds is good for my cardiovascular health and lowering the risk of, type 2 diabetes. And from an overall health perspective, it's great. And I acknowledge that all those things are absolutely fabulous. And if you can lose weight in a healthy way and you're not chronically ill, you go at it. But I want to also acknowledge that everybody out there who's fighting to just survive day to day with chronic illness, and who in the back of their mind is like, I'm overweight and I want to lose weight, but I just can't. And they're just fighting to like manage their day-to-day symptoms. Don't worry about it. Like, let it go. Like, just try and be happy. Your weight loss journey right now may just not be, it may just not be the time, and that's okay. You've got other things on your plate right now and you can't do it all at the same time constantly. And it's taken me 7 years to get to this point right now, and that's okay. And the other thing I want to really, really, really put a point on is, holy Hannah, our society puts way, 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 way too much power on the number on the scale. Because quite frankly, the loss of 50 pounds hasn't made me feel any better. Standing on that scale hasn't changed shit. So how about we forget about the darn scale and let's focus on, do we feel better? Not only about ourselves, but do our joints hurt less? Do we have less headaches? What are our symptoms? How can we actually feel better as human beings? And that's an individual journey. It's not about what the scale says, but it's what about we actually feel. Do we feel stronger? Do we feel better about ourselves? Do we actually like ourselves, for crying out loud? And quite frankly, it's not the scale that's going to tell me that. It's me. And if there's one thing I've learned being chronically ill, I care less and less and less about how much I weigh, and more and more about, how do I feel today? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Am I going to be able to get dressed by myself today? Am I be able to get out of the house today? And if everybody in society cared more about how they actually felt, I think we'd have a better society. We spend too much time caring about how we look in the mirror and whether or not we like the number on the scale than how we actually internally, mentally, physically feel about ourselves. And that's something that, good gracious, we need to let go of. Like, enough. And so that's really, if you can take one thing out of this video, is, hey, you want to weigh yourself on the scale for stats? Because don't get me wrong, I love me some good old stats too. You want to keep track of that? Go crazy. However, it shouldn't be your guiding principle. Your goal should be set based on, okay, do I feel like I'm gaining strength? Am I going from 3 days a week of having headaches to 1 day a week of having headaches? Can I do all the stairs at work now? Like, whatever your goal is, it should be based on a day-to-day living thing that makes you happier, whatever that looks like for you. Whatever that dream, whatever that goal is, absolutely. But it should not be tied to some number, because what happens after? What's next? Once you reach that number, What, you're just gonna wanna get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, and then what? There's so many issues with tying those numbers to what is healthy for you. Our generation, especially mine, we're taught that that's how health works. And I think it's done a lot of damage. As someone who's chronically ill, and since I've been chronically ill, it's truly taught me that you just cannot look at health any other way other than true goals should be internally your own. And I really hope that that's something that you guys can look at instead of looking at the numbers you clicked on for this video. If you'd like to follow my journey, follow the continuation that is Slow Roll, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to make more content like this as these wonderful, crazy things continue to happen. If you'd like to know more about my Ozempic journey and why I actually started on Ozempic, because it had nothing to do with weight loss whatsoever, click on this video next.